There it is. Welcome everybody to the Check Swing Podcast. Well, you know what happens. The thing unmutes on its own, and I was trying to unmute myself. I was jumping the gun. Trying to throw things together at the last second.
I was terrified for a half a second.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. But welcome to the Check Swing Podcast, y'all. With the star of the show, Mr. Santa over there, and it's your time of the year, right, Santa? There you go.
I
Yeah.
haven't heard that one before.
Nah, I thought you probably would have, but I'm
My
glad.
wife actually gets it worse, believe it or not.
Really.
Yeah, they're like Mrs. Claus. She's like, yeah.
Well, welcome to the show, and welcome to the Check Swing Podcast. And you know how I like to start every show. I start every show by saying, "What? How you been?" So, Miguel, how you been?
Been well, sir. Tonight I had the opportunity to start working with or getting to know the team I'll be coaching down here in Maryland. So just building some relationships and just getting into the flow, getting sort of back into the flow of coaching, slowly but surely. So kind of excited about the team I'll be coaching down here. They're of course bigger. I don't know about better yet, but I think we're gonna surprise some people.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, maybe.
I can't wait to see how it turns out for y'all.
Appreciate it.
Can't wait. Ooh, excuse me. Can't wait to hear about it. I haven't been drinking. I promise. I haven't been drinking. Um, looks like you're drinking. All right, now it's a party. Um, Now I said we probably wouldn't talk about this till later on the show, but I watched it again, so I want to bring it up again last night. Of course, this is a baseball show or a sports show, baseball podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the Hall of Fame vote. We're going to be talking about the lockout, and of course we got our Phillies fo, which is the last installment of our fo for the Philly athletes, greatest Philly athletes of all time. But last night was a special show, right? It was um, a special. They showed different strokes and facts of life. Right? I was trying to find something dynamic to say. I couldn't think of it. They showed facts of life in different strokes last night. I watched it again today. I love when they do those things because it's kind of nostalgic for me.
Yeah,
It's nostalgic for me. Watching it again today, it was kind of like this one wasn't really all that good, but it was kind of okay.
right.
The best one was the All in the Family and the Jeffersons. I think that was probably the best one. It was the one that was like it was the first one. We didn't know what to expect, and made it great. Um,
That was when Jamie Foxx was played George Jefferson, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and the Facts of Life one was kind of. I was watching. I didn't even finish it. I fast forwarded like half of it.
Okay.
I don't know how y'all felt about it out there, but either way, I just wanted to put that out there. Miguel, I don't know if you got a chance to check it out if you want to say anything about it.
I wanted to see who they were gonna modernize as Tootie because that was who my childhood crush was on. I love Gabrielle Union, but I like the original Tootie better. The
Hmm.
Different Strokes was kind of nostalgic, and I think when you and I were watching it last night, all I kept remembering is when Kevin Hart, who played the role of Arnold, came in, and when you go from the kitchen to the living room, and those big double doors that is supposed to go up to like the powder room or whatever. I
Mhm.
always remember the scene or the episode where the daughter, I think her name is Kimberly Drummond in the show, the episode where she was forcing herself to throw up.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know why.
yeah.
I don't know why those doors always remind me of that episode. And I know it was a serious episode. I I just couldn't help. I was like, oh, I remember. It just kind of triggered that. And I don't know, seeing Kevin Hart in the superhero costume with the big A in the middle, I just couldn't get past that for a little bit. It was quite funny.
Yeah, it was kind of weird to see Arnold Drummond with a beard. Um,
Mhm.
and
And
but it was funny because at one point in the show, Damon Wayans kind of made a joke about that.
Right, right, right.
off the script. I said, I know he looks 45, but he's 8. You know what I mean?
And who was Arnold's friend again? Played by the great Snoop Dogg,
Oh, that was Willis's friend Vernon.
Vernon. Best line in that whole show is when Arnold sleeps with. He's like, "Why does Vernon always smell like weed?" That was the
That
best
was
line
funny.
in the whole show.
That was funny. That was absolutely funny.
That was hilarious.
But with all that being said, this is the Check Swing Podcast. We talk a lot about baseball. We talk sports in general, a lot about baseball. We are baseball coaches, and today is one of the days that we are going to be talking about the Hall of Fame. They had a vote for the. I'm going to say they had a vote for the old heads to get into the Hall of Fame. Um, Miguel's shaking his head over there. It looks like he didn't like it, but we'll get into that. We're also going to be talking a little bit about the lockout. Again, another lockout for Major League Baseball, and of course, like I said earlier, the fo. Uh, Miguel,
Sir,
Hall of Fame vote. Our guy didn't get in again.
they did it to him again, and they did the exact same thing to him again, missed by one flapping vote. Now, couple of sentimental picks did get in, like Minnie Minosa, who is Tony Oliva, um, two great players that should have probably should have been in sooner. Gil Hodges, Jim Cott. Although Jim Cott is a very underrated baseball analyst because I think he was a baseball analyst on CBS Sports for quite a long time. He's actually really good. He's like the Joe Theismann of baseball, I think. Um,
Okay.
just because of how detailed he was as a broadcaster, but he played like 68 years. And I know when you heard about this, you kind of posted, about time for this great legend, Buck O'Neill.
Yes. Yes.
And, because I know he was at the Hall of Fame podium for something, but I it may have been for something, or he was introducing someone else. But definitely long overdue for Buck O'Neill. And for those that don't know, he's one of if not the greatest first baseman in Negro League history. Was compared to be the Lou Gehrig of Negro League baseball, and was also one of the first baseball managers, or baseball coaches, if I'm not mistaken. I think he broke in with the Chicago Cubs. Was one of the first black coaches to coach in professional baseball. So he broke a lot of barriers, but long overdue. But again, um, Dick Allen gets the snub, and I don't know what it is. I don't know, because even with Buck O'Neill, like, it's taken this long after his passing to get into the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? It's like, why?
At this point, it's like, who is it for now? I guess it's for the
Right.
descendants now. Like, who is it really for now? They
I,
didn't get
I
to
would
it good
I
yet.
would love the one thing I've always I know sports writers have to have a job to do, right?
Mhm.
And I always go back to like this movie, the movie 61, which was the story of the chase for 61 by Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle. And I love the fact that Billy Crystal was the director of the movie, but he included the relationship of the sports writers of New York with the players. And
Mhm.
I remember I always remember the scene where the chase is, kind of heating up, and all the writers are like, man, Roger Maris this and Mickey Mantle that. And then the one writer's like, how come Roger doesn't smile? You know, he's not fun to watch. Oh, look, he hits a home run and wow, the cows are mooing. Like he was, creating some angst.
Mhm.
And some may say it may have hurt him, publicly with the fans in New York, because they got to the point where the fans of New York actually hated Roger Maris because he was competing against Mickey Mantle. In their eyes, Mickey Mantle was New York. He was the one that should be breaking records. He was the one that's going to overtake Babe Ruth and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and that kind of everything you just said kind of takes me, and what you just said and what you just referred to, um, might be the reason that I am so against the writers voting for the Hall of Fame.
And I gotta see if I gotta read it. Do the writers reveal themselves as far as like?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe they do, or I know they have. I don't know if it's 'cause what was the last Hall of Fame that was just voted on prior to? Was it the NFL Hall of Fame? I think it was the NFL Hall of Fame,
Yeah, usually that's prior to the that's
and
usually done before the Super Bowl, I think.
they usually announce it, but I think the voting comes early or something. It was something I forgot. I forgot what it was, but there was a Philadelphia writer, prominent Philadelphia writer, who came under some scrutiny because no, I'm sorry, this was for the MVP. I'm completely off base,
Oh,
but same premise, same premise. Um, with the MVP voting in the National League this year, of course we know Bryce Harper won.
right.
Some people say deservedly so. Some people say not so much.
Mhm.
Um, I want to say there's a prominent writer for the Phillies that has a vote, and they said what he did was what's my man's name out in San Diego, uh,
Tatis.
Tatis, and there was another guy that he voted like fourth and fifth,
Okay.
as opposed to voting them like second and third, and he voted Bryce Harper first.
Okay.
And his they knew it was him. They knew what his vote was. So I'm thinking in some way, shape, or form there is some type of reveal. I remember when Jeter was voted to the Hall. Um, Jeter was not unanimous, and there was a I think there I if I'm not mistaken, I think the writer that did not vote for him actually came out and said something. So I
Yeah.
don't know if they are revealed for the Hall of Fame vote, but he revealed himself.
But and I remember that one because the writer said that he didn't. The only reason why he didn't go the unanimous route is because he didn't. But he doesn't believe that a player should get in with a perfect score or something to that effect. And I'm like,
Who you to go ahead finish? I'm sorry.
No, no, no. Listen, who the are you? Right? Yeah. It's like it depends on obviously who's the ballot. Like if it's Derek G, like his argument was like even if it was Derek Jeter and like let's say the next person on the ballot he was going up against was like I don't know Lenny Dykstra and Juan Pierre, right? I know I'm messing
Why
with you.
do you always go to that name?
I because I
Because
like
that's
Juan
probably
Pierre.
like the only person you know that liked Juan Pierre as a baseball
You know
player.
what it was? He had a really small head. It was really awkward to me. Okay, but that's a personal thing. We'll talk about it off show. It's something about big bodies and little heads. They terrify me. It's like the whole Beetlejuice thing. Um, like you're telling me like Derek Jeter versus those two, and you're still not going to give the unanimous vote just because you know what I mean. You don't want anybody to go in like unabated or undefeated. It's like, dude,
It makes zero sense to me. I'm sticking to my my thoughts of Hall of Famers should vote for the Hall of Fame,
what do you think you should
as
just
well
be?
as well as current players.
I'm wondering if you can split it.
What you mean?
Well, so I wonder if you can split it where like a percentage could be coaches, managers,
I'm sure they can.
a percentage could be players, a percentage could be fans. Like I just think that just leaving it up to writers because think about it, writers, sports writers 95% of the time are hired to sell papers. Nowadays, the paper is kind of going away. Now they're trying to sell clicks. They're trying to promote visits to sites. Um, so a writer, a baseball writer, sports writer in general, they're storytellers. You know what I mean? They're trying to tell a story, or they're trying to build something. Start a rumor, plant a seed. Everything like that. Going back to that movie 61, the one guy, he goes up to Roger Maris. He's like, "I didn't want to tell you this, man, but I words on the street is that you're going to be traded. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this," and then he just walks away. And I'm like, see, that's the stuff that messes up locker rooms, but it sells papers. So
Mhm.
why am I going to entrust a storyteller to vote for a great player, especially one that you didn't really think was great outside? Like, he wasn't flashy. You know what I mean? I'm
Right.
surprised. I'm surprised Derek Jeter was almost unanimous, only because he was like the Obama of baseball. Like, no controversies. He was smooth with everything.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I was actually surprised that he didn't get like. I was surprised that the New York media didn't turn on him, like, let's say, an Alex Rodriguez or a Roger
Had
Maris.
had he not, I feel this is just my opinion. Had he not won World Series, had he not won championships, he would have gotten turned on.
He would have what?
He would have gotten turned on. I believe they would have turned on him. There would have been something out. See, it's kind of like, and I'm not saying there was never any bad press about Michael Jordan, but it's kind of like Michael Jordan was untouchable in Chicago,
Right.
right? You don't mess that up. Um, LeBron James is kind of, he's real clean, real smooth, no controversies. He's untouchable in LA right now,
Right.
right? He was untouchable in Miami. He became untouchable in Cleveland, right? I just think it's one of those type of deals where he was the one bringing championships, and when you bring the championships, like you can't. One of the things you can't do in the media is say he's not a winner.
Right.
So you can't harp on the things that he doesn't do to win, right?
Right.
So what happened? What happens with Allen Iverson? We were talking before the show. Allen Iverson never won a championship, right? But what did they talk about? They talk about his lack of practice, right? That was a big talk. We wouldn't know if Derek Jeter didn't practice. He won championships, so it didn't matter whether or not he practiced, right? And he was a genuinely, as far as what he portrayed, was a nice guy,
Hmm.
right? No, it still seems that way. When you look at Barry Bonds, his work ethic never came into question.
Right.
His possible performance enhancing drug use did.
Mm.
Never tested positive, never got caught or anything like that. Let me just put that out there. But what was the big problem with Barry Bonds? His relationship with the media.
Right.
So I just feel like there's never going to be a media. I never. What was I trying to say? I don't feel like the media should have a say
Their vote for the Hall of
in
Fame.
their vote for the Hall of Fame. Because why do they get a vote? Because they cover the game. That's why. Like, it would make sense, but that's why they get a vote because they cover the game.
And I think too, just like with what happened with the Dick Allen vote a couple years ago, like, you can lobby a writer for a vote. You can't lobby fans. Fans are going to be fans. Like, you dig what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like, how I proved it on this show statistically. I still don't understand how Harold Baines got in the Hall of Fame, and the only thing he ever led the league in is in a stat that nobody gave a crap about, which was slugging. That
Hmm.
was it. That's the only thing he ever led the league in. Everything else, he was not even in the top 10 in the category. You know,
I kind of call slugging percentage like a made up statistic.
well, I mean, it's slugging is valid. You know what I mean? But when you think about that compared to, leading in like game winning home runs or even OPS, which is slugging and on base percentage, he didn't even lead the league in that. So really, you know what he was really known for? Showing the hell up. That was it. He showed the hell up, and he didn't even play the field for it like 90% of his career. You know what I mean? But it's stuff like that because his best buddy was his manager in Tony La Russa, and Tony La Russa had a beeline to the writers in Chicago, big city, Oakland, big city, Baltimore, big city. Hey, let's get our buddy into the Hall of Fame. But Dick Allen, he's one of those uppity ones that we still can't get in yet.
Yeah, it's first of all, it's not right. So what you're telling me as a media member, as someone that covers the game,
Mhm.
you get a vote, but someone who watches every single game,
Mhm.
they don't get a vote.
So what?
Obviously, they don't.
Right,
But what are they seeing? The Hall of Fame is all about what you did on the field.
right,
So a writer is seeing the same thing a fan is seeing.
right.
So what's the difference? Why does the writer get the vote and not the fan? And I'm not saying the fan should get the vote because I don't believe that I don't believe they should get the vote.
See, I think you need to break it up because just for the fact that you made like a writer will see a certain side of a player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but fans see a side of it. So picking on the Dick Allen situation, if you ask every single manager, player, and coach that worked with Dick Allen, they will tell you the same thing. He was a great teammate. He inspired the little guys, and yes, he didn't take no crap,
Mm-hmm.
but he always explained why he didn't do some of the things that he, allegedly was supposed to do. But he was always there for his teammates. He may have been late a couple times. There are some stories of that. But
There are some Hall of Famers in every sport that have been late a
hey,
couple
how
times.
about that? How about that? Um, but to this day, Mike Schmidt will tell you he's the reason why my career took off when it did. You know what I mean? And then you hear some other side stories. You know, Lenny Dykstra is a piece of crap, right? But in '93, he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. But there's a reporter that talked about how he followed Lenny Dykstra to surrounding cities for a couple of weeks in '93, and he said he was embarrassed because of the stuff that he was doing between stuff with taxi cab drivers and women at that time, but that didn't come out until the last couple years, last 10 maybe 11 years, on how much of a horrible player he was off the field.
A
you know
person,
not- you know
a horrible person, because the player on the field, they took care of business, but
right, but
off the field,
but if it
they
was up to
were
the
personal.
if it was up to the sports writers,
Yeah, right.
that's why I'm saying, like, I agree, it shouldn't be just the fans. I think the fans should have a stake because they're the ones at the end of the day paying the money. So I think that right there justifies them having some sort of vote.
Well, let us know what you think, people. All the folks watching, y'all checking us out. Appreciate y'all for checking us out, and of course, let us know what you think. The Hall of Fame vote. We talk about Dick Allen quite a bit on this show. Former Philly Dick Allen did not get voted into the Hall of Fame again.
Facts.
Buck O'Neill got in, Manny Minosa got in, a number of others, but Dick Allen did not, and he is deserved of the Hall of Fame. I have not compared numbers of Dick Allen and those that did get in. I don't know if you've done that. I know, that's part of your thing, but you probably haven't.
No, I didn't do my usual nosedive in, but like Gil Hodges, who for those that don't know was a Brooklyn Dodger. He had like 382 home runs, nice little career. But he was also the manager for the Miracle Mets of 1969. So of course, you know what I mean. He was a great player and a great manager. So not putting anything against Gil Hodges or Jim Cott or Minnie Minosa and the rest. It's just like Buck O'Neill, like 50 years, 40 years, and just now,
I know what you're saying. If he deserved to get in now, why didn't he deserve to get in 20, 30 years ago?
and that is where the power of the sports writer should not be.
Exactly.
Be-
Because there's undoubtedly sports writers that voted for Manny Minosa, Buck O'Neill, Gil Hodges that never saw them play.
right,
Never saw them play.
right.
But they were able to vote for them.
And
There's
baseball,
people on this earth that did see them play. You understand what I'm saying?
right.
And they can tell you whether or not they belong in the Hall of Fame.
But and the thing about baseball is, and we've seen all the movies, we've seen all the stories, but baseball is rooted in, just like the history of our country, unfortunately, has an ugly past in regards to race relations.
That's true.
So if you think, all right, if you think of the sports writers in the 60s and 70s that may still be alive today, that are passing down stories from generation to generation, they're going to tell the stories, the negative stories about Dick Allen, which again have been refuted by the ones that were like, you know what, it was made up, or we embellished this, or we kind of tweaked that. But you told those negative stories to the point where even when you do renege on it, it's like, well, there's still a possibility of this lingering on the side. So the current sports writers who never saw Dick Allen play will do their history check. Oh, well, it says here, he was smoking and drunk in the dugout right before a game, and it says here he was betting on horses in New York and missed the double head. Like, those are actual stories that were written in the papers. And for a historian, that's what you look for. You look for a historical record. So it's like, well, if this is the historical record, factual or not, or made up at the time, that's the historical record.
See, and I feel like maybe with the older guys, right? Maybe with the Buck O'Neills, the Dick Allens, the guys that are on the ballot. Like so with baseball, correct me if I'm wrong, Miguel. With baseball, you have a certain amount of time on the ballot, and then they take you off. And then years later, they can put you back on the ballot as what I call an old head vote. Like I don't know what it's called, but they put guys back on the ballot to be voted for. I think like Goose Gossage
Yeah.
was on the ballot for a while, and then he had like 1 year left and didn't make it, so they take him off and they'll put him back. But you know what I'm saying? Um, I feel like maybe maybe I'm lightening my stance as I'm talking about it. Maybe Hall of Famers should vote on the old head ballot, and sports writers should vote on not the current ballot, but you know what I'm saying, the guys that
You,
are
the first ballot Hall of Famers.
the younger guy, the yeah.
See, I still think you need a fan vote. I don't think that the sports writers should be the sole voters, because they have agendas.
Right, right. And fans have agendas too.
Fans have
And I'm
agendas
sure
too,
Hall of
but
Famers have agendas too.
but you can see where the balance could come in.
Now, right, because the media can have an agenda, but they can also put their agenda in motion, whereas the fan cannot.
So imagine if the vote was, I don't know what a third of 100 is, but if you had Hall of Famers, if you had Hall of Famers, sports writers, and the fans, right? I
Mhm.
think that the Hall of Famers that played with Dick Allen, the coaches that played with Dick Allen, and the fans that actually watched Dick Allen, the fans that actually, may be interested in history of the game as much as I am, would overrule all of the negative stuff from the writers. So they probably could have brought the percentage up a decimal to get him to the 12 votes that he needed. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But again, it shouldn't. I don't think it should just be one or the other group. I think you have to include the people that were completely vested in the game, the ones that played the game, and the ones that paid to watch the game.
absolutely, absolutely. I don't know why fans don't get a vote. They get a vote in the Hall of. I guess. I mean, excuse me. They get a vote for the All Star game. I guess
It,
that's
it,
where it comes from. They get to do that.
I think because then you'll get like the dumb votes. Like there would be somebody that would vote Lenny Dykstra into the Hall of Fame.
Oh, absolutely. You know that's going to happen.
So I guess that's okay.
Maybe. Nah, that wouldn't go well either. I was going to
But
say
again, but
maybe
again, so
yeah.
let's say you had Lenny Dykstra on the ballot, and he gets like 90% of the vote from the fans, but then you'd still have that overruling factor. All right, the baseball writers will be like, "No, you're stupid," and then the Hall of Famers would probably agree the same thing. So that would overrule the fan base. That's how
Right.
you can kind of play the percentages and balance it out. And I'm sure I'm really making this as sound simplistic. I'm sure it's much more algebra and statistics, all of which I was a C- student in high school. Um, but I think you kind of need that ebb and flow, that balance, because I think if you had the fan vote and the Hall of Fame vote, they would have probably overruled the writer vote and gotten Dick Allen in the Hall of Fame.
I would have to agree with that. And I would also like to say that there's no such thing as a C minus or a C plus.
There was when I went to school.
No, me too. But
See,
I'm
and that,
saying
and that's
there's
and
no
that's
such
Philly
thing.
school.
It's there's no such thing, right?
There is.
No, no. I know there is, but there's no such thing. Like a C minus and a C plus is still a C.
True.
One is a higher C, one is a lower C, but it's a C. I had I I had a teacher one time give me an F plus. Yes. And I
That
had to
means
take that home and get it signed. And it was like F. I was like, and I'm like, well, it was an F plus. What?
you
Like
you failed with honors.
right, like yeah, you failed, but you did good and failed. Like really?
You
Like there's
honorably
no such thing as an F minus.
it's like an honorable discharge, I guess. You honorably failed.
You either get an A, B, C, D, or F, or an E depending on what, or an I depending on what school you go to, whatever. Um, that's our talk on the Hall of Fame, the voting procedure. We've had this discussion, and I'm sure we'll have it again when they vote on the Young Bowl ballot. Since I call the other one the old head ballot,
We need to send this link to Major League Baseball after the lockout is done. Maybe we'll be able to make some changes.
maybe, maybe. But speaking of lockout, the MLB is currently in a lockout.
Great segue.
That's what I do. Like Obama said, that's what I do.
Ah, ah.
um, Anytime I think about a MLB lockout, because there's been many, right? I think of '94, and I think about how the season started with replacement players. I think about how the Phillies were still the defending National League champions. I think about how the Expos were amazing leading up to all that. Um, but with a struggling game, as baseball is a struggling game in the mainstream, if if this lockout were to go into the season, can baseball to survive? Can the game survive a lockout that goes into the season? Being that the popularity has been going down.
Has it been going down?
Well, the pop is not as popular as it was in the '90s.
Yeah.
I feel like the popular. I mean, fans like you and I were going to be fans regardless. But your casual fan is not as excited to watch the game as they might have been in the 90s, as they might have been to see a Cal Ripken, a Rafael Palmeiro, a Ken Griffey Jr., a Barry Bonds, Ozzie Smith, Barry Larkin, the whole Atlanta Braves team from back in the day, Fred McGriff, David Justice, David Pendleton, Terry Pendleton, Otis Nixon, Ron Gant, all those guys.
I still can't believe you were a Braves fan.
I was a Braves fan.
Were you picked on a lot as a kid? Were you?
Not
Were you?
not
Were you,
not for
were,
my baseball fanhood. I was a Phillies fan. Let me set the record straight. I was a Phillies fan. I was a Phillies fan.
but you can't. Go
Hold
ahead.
on, hold on. I was very young at the time.
Go ahead.
I was very young at the time, and I didn't understand. I didn't completely understand the loyalty thing, right? So go back even further. World Series 1980 something. You'll remember the year because you're good at it. It was the Oakland A's and the Cincinnati Reds.
1990.
Was that 90?
Because they got. I remember that
The year
because
before was the San Francisco one with the earthquake, right?
right. So they went 3 years in a row. They went Dodgers 88. That was the Kirk Gibson home run off of Eckersley.
Okay.
89 was the earthquake, and 90 was the clean sweep by the Cincinnati Reds. They
Now,
had the nasty boys on that team.
now let me explain to you, and if my dad is watching, he'll remember this because he didn't like it. So and I didn't know anything about him really, but I was an A's fan
You know what? You're justified in being an A's fan because where did the A's start from?
in Philly,
There you go.
but I didn't know that back then either.
Right.
I was an A's fan because the A's were in the World Series, and that's who I saw. I was like, they're awesome. Ricky Henderson, blah blah blah, they're awesome, right? Dave Stewart, they're awesome, right?
Right.
1990 comes around, right? I'm excited. A's are in the World Series. That's my team. I don't know jack about them, but that's my squad, right? And I want to say that the A's went down 2 games to none, maybe 3 games to none. And I said, 1990 now, and I'm 9 years old. I said, I'm rooting for the Reds now. Now, at the time, my dad did not say anything to me about it. But he told me later on he was so mad that I did that. Later on, he told me he was mad about that. But fast forward, always been a Phillies fan, hometown team, always been a Phillies fan. But they didn't win, right? They didn't win. And it was fun to root for a winner in times of the playoffs, especially when your team wasn't there. Now, during the time that I was a fan of the Braves and a fan of the Phillies, they played each other in the playoffs. Who did I want to win? The Phillies. I was not rooting for the Braves in that series. I rooted for the Braves in every series after that when they were in the playoffs. I did not root for the Braves in that series. Okay, and I was very happy that they did not win. But like I said before in previous show, the Braves had all the players, all the good players that looked like me. So it was cool to see all the players that looked like me excelling in a game that I love to play.
You
It
didn't like
gave me
West,
a reason to say, look, I can be like them.
you didn't like Wes Chamberlain or Milt Thompson or Kim Baptiste.
So yes, I did. Wes Chamberlain was not a starter. Milt Thompson, I believe, was like a sometimey starter.
So remember, Jim Fregosi did something. He
And Tim
platooned.
Baptiste wasn't a starter though. But go
No, no,
ahead.
no. He platooned.
Uh-huh.
So the only person he didn't platoon was Darren Dalton and Lenny Dykstra. Everybody else was a platoon, and John Kruk because John Kruk was hitting like 380 in August that year.
Mm-hmm.
At second base, you had Mickey Morandini against righties and Mariano Duncan against lefties.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Eisenreich in right along with Wes Chamberlain. And then you had Milt Thompson in the left with the great, powerful Pete Incaviglia.
Side note, I met Milt Thompson last year at a or actually earlier this year at a Jackie Robinson night. Drexel Hill Little League here in Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania.
Nice.
Shout out to Coach Nick Hoyt. Um, they're having another one next year, April 14th. Come on out and support. I'll be there trying, get some things together for that. But shout out to the Drexel Hill Little League for reaching out and asking me to be a part of that. So it's an amazing time. Yeah, you had Wes Chamberlain, you had Ricky Jordan, you had
Ricky Jordan.
Bettis. Forgot about Ricky Jordan, didn't you?
I did.
And you had Milt Thompson. Right? Out of all those, I like Ricky Jordan because the last name is Jordan, right? He's got to be great. His name is Jordan. I'm young, I don't know. But I like Milt Thompson because his batting stance was here. It was a little bit for the time. Because he was like one of those guys that was like up here or something. I don't remember exactly, but I think it was like up here with it.
Ricky Jordan had the thing up here, and then Milt Thompson kind of was like,
yeah, he had something weird. It was something. But
he had a small body and a big head, so it was kind of Beetlejuice in reverse.
Yeah, and when I met him, I got to talk to him for a few minutes before all the ceremonies and stuff. He was a real nice guy. At least it seemed that way. He took pictures with everybody. When I got a chance to take a picture with him by myself, everybody jumped in the picture. I never got to take a picture with him by myself. Kind of crazy. Maybe one day I'll put the pictures up so you can see. But yeah, I didn't get to take. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Excuse me, I got water. I like the Braves. The Braves were on TV, one of those type things. The Braves, you can see the Braves on TV. They had players that looked like me. I could support that because if you think about it, back in those days, wasn't a lot of players that looked like me that were excelling, and especially on one team.
Right.
So that was exciting to me. And they continued. I mean, Deion Sanders was there. Brian Jordan was there at one point. They just made things happen. But they kept losing, and it made me mad. They just kept losing, except for 1 year. But every other year they kept losing. Now I think about it as a Phillies fan, I'm like, yeah, they kept losing. Whatever, forget it. But back then I was like, I hated everybody that beat them, especially the Yankees.
Yeah.
Especially the Yankees. Why? Because Charlie Hayes caught the third out in that World Series in the last game, and Charlie Hayes was a Philly. And I felt like he did me dirty personally because he was a Philly and he caught the last out against the team I wanted to win.
See, and it's funny that '96 Yankee team was the only Yankee team I actually rooted for because they were playing the Braves.
But here's the funny thing about it. Oh, I remember why I was starting to talk about it. At that time, the Braves, to me, correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the historian out of the two of us. The Braves and the Phillies were not really the rivalry back then. There was not really a rivalry with Braves and Phillies back. The Braves were in the West. They were in the NL West at the time.
You're right. Yeah, because it was the Phillies, the Pirates, and the Mets.
Mm-hmm.
Who else was there? Was another team in the East. Expos. That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
there was only the NL East and the NL West. That was it.
Right.
That was it. So it wasn't the hatred wasn't there.
Right.
It just wasn't. So, it wasn't a big deal to me to say I was a Braves fan. Now, when I say that to Phillies fans now, they're like, how could you be a Braves fan? Well, I kind of got to remind you that wasn't rivalry back then. Right. People forget that they weren't always rivals. Right. So, but I think we started talking about the lockout. I don't know how we got to me liking the Braves at one point.
Because you started running your mouth about Ron Gant and Brian Jordan. You ran down the whole gamut of the Braves roster, and I saw the twinkle in your eye.
Yeah, I wish I could make that squad on the show.
You can make the squad on the show.
Yeah, I don't have the patience. Can you make it for me? Thanks. You probably already did.
I actually can, which is funny.
I know you can. That's the thing. I know you can. I'm gonna actually try. I'll try to do it though.
If you go into Go if you go into the if you look up roster vault, you can actually download the roster. There's like a billion legend rosters.
You're right. That
Just do
people
it.
made. Yeah, people made it, created.
People made them, yeah, and they already have legends on. And you can actually, when you create a season, you can actually include all legends if you want.
Ah, okay. Okay. Well, we are 45 minutes into the show. That fast. I don't know how it happened, but that fast. We're 45 minutes into the show. And we still got to do our 444.
The last one.
The last one before we reveal the greatest Philadelphia athletes of all time. Now, I believe I went first last week.
You
Yeah,
did.
because you went first the week before, so I went first last week. So, do you want to do yours first this week? I
Okay.
know I should always go first because your presentation outdoes my presentation.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. I'll go
My
first.
presentation, they're basic presentation.
I'll go first.
You just like the
If you have
people.
the basic presentation, I have the under basic presentation. I have like the trial period presentation where you have the full subscription
No, no,
presentation.
no. You have the. Oh, damn! I forgot that this assignment was due today. Presentation, and I'm gonna do this real quick before class starts.
Pretty much how I live my life. pretty much how I got out of high school and all that good stuff.
I was not going there.
It's how you gotta make it happen. So my Phillies four. I tried to get it. I couldn't put like red and white because you guys wouldn't have saw the white. So my Phillies four. Number one, I got Mike Schmidt, greatest Phillies third baseman of all time. Um, what else can I say? I mean, it is what it is. Jimmy Rollins, probably my personal favorite Philly of all time. Comes to mind, when I think of Jimmy Rollins, I think of a guy that, as the time when he was the best in the league, the time when he was the MVP and all like that. He was we are the team to beat. He wanted to be that leader. He wanted to be the team to lead, to be the leader. He put it on his shoulders, whatever the case may be, and he's up for a Hall of Fame vote now. Smooth Jimmy Rollins, not the greatest shortstop of all time, but that can be argued, right? But maybe the greatest Philly shortstop of all time between him and Larry Bowa. Who knows? I mean, a lot of people probably say Larry Bowa, but Jimmy was the man. Okay. Number three, I got lefty Steve Carlton. Probably the greatest Phillies pitcher of all time. I'll let Miguel tell me who was better than Steve Carlton as a Philly. I mean, you had Roy Halladay, you had Cole Hamels, you had I'm having a brain fart. Don't don't kill me. Kurt Schilling, I know he's better than Kurt Schilling. But of course, at number five or four, excuse me, at number four, a guy that we talk about on this show even today, Dick Allen, should be a Hall of Famer, not in the Hall of Fame yet. I put him on there because we're going to keep his name going on our show until he is voted into the Hall of Fame, and that is my fo. Mike Schmidt, Jimmy Rollins, Steve Carlton, and Dick Allen.
Now, is that the order? So, is Mike Schmidt your greatest?
First, let me just say no, that's not the order. But like now that I look at it, it's like that could be the order.
It could be the. I mean,
It's
it's
very well
the
could be
order.
the order. Um, my favorite of all time is Jimmy, personally.
Mm.
I,
But
I
is he the greatest in your eyes?
is he the greatest? Man, I wish I saw more of Mike Schmidt. I was young. I was very young. But he was the guy. He was like my favorite player back then. I can remember going to the Bet Stadium. They were giving out the Smokey the Bear gloves, and I was like, Mike Schmidt hit it right here in Smokey the Bear's face. I remember saying that.
I always enjoyed the tasty cake backpacks or the tasty cake shirts that were always a medium.
Yeah, no matter what size they were always too small. Um, hmm. Mike Schmidt probably. See, I got to take my bias out of it because I said Jimmy was my favorite, but Mike Schmidt is probably the greatest Philly of all time. Probably, and I'm not saying Steve Carlton because I cannot give that distinction to a pitcher, to a starting pitcher,
Mhm.
being that they don't play every day.
You know what's funny? He was actually a very good hitter, Steve Carlton.
Was he?
I think he was like a lifetime like 240, 250 hitter. He won the Silver Slugger for pitchers like twice. He
My
was
boy
he was he was a
contacted the
real
show.
he was a really good hitting pitcher.
Okay, he filled. No, I guess can't say he fielded his position, but he made sure he made you work as a pitcher. You would make other pitchers work.
Yeah,
It wasn't an easy out. It wasn't an automatic,
yeah.
and that's good. So that's my five, my four: Schmidt, Rollins, Carlton, and Dick Allen. All right. We will put out the survey. You can vote on the survey for your favorite Philly of all time or your greatest Philly of all time. Um, and of course, you guys get the final say. So there it is. Now for Miguel's fo. Boom. City of Philadelphia. Beautiful skyline.
Sir. So number four, we share a common.
Timothy.
We got Jimmy Rollins, basic stat line, MVP, three-time All-Star, four-time Gold Glover, Silver Slugger, and of course, looking at the pretty ring on his finger representing the 2008 World Series. Although after his MVP season, he kind of went into basic mode, I guess you can say. Didn't really hit above like 270 much after that. But for the most part, was always fast. The first, what was it, 2020 in triples and home runs and stolen bases in the season. Jimmy Rollins.
Jimothy.
Number three, huh?
Said Jimothy.
Jimothy. And number three, I too have Steve Carlton. Um, he has so many statistics and so many years played. I couldn't even put a picture on this page. Um, Won the ERA title, four Cy Youngs. He was a triple crown um, winner. I believe that's ERA, strikeouts, and wins, if I'm not mistaken. I forget what the pitcher triple crown is. Interesting stat. There's a video on YouTube. A famous player got his first major league hit off of him, Bo Jackson, when Steve
Really?
Carlton was playing for the Chicago White Sox. Yeah.
Really?
Bo Jackson got his first major league hit off. But yeah, you see all the statistics before that, and people forget that he was a two-time world champion, technically three. He won a world championship with the St. Louis Cardinals before he was traded over to the Phillies, and that year in 1972 where he won 27 and went 27-10. The Phillies only won 59 games that year.
Hmm.
So he won literally almost half of
That's
all the Phillies games in that one season.
wow.
So just to kind of show his dominance, and you see all the innings pitched and you see all the games started, and not to pick on analytics and all that, I know I kind of battle between the new school and the old school, but he had a simple exercise that he used to do to build up arm strength. And what he would do is he would go into a 50-pound bowl of rice and just kind of knead it.
Hmm.
And that would stretch out his forearm muscle. It would take care of his elbow and his shoulder. And he did that religiously. And you see what it produced,
Uncooked rice.
Huh?
Uncooked rice.
Uncooked rice.
That can be painful.
It sure can. And I battled between number two and number one, but again, I have to look at it from a holistic feng shui kind of thing. But number two, I got my man Dick Allen. People always forget that the White Sox in the '70s actually went red and powder blue. Pretty cool. jerseys, in my opinion. Um, and of course, those are the statistics of Dick Allen, MVP, Rookie of the Year, 7-time All Star. Famously wore the number 15. Did return back to Philadelphia in a kind of apology farewell tour type apparatus. Um, and based on those numbers, should still be in the Hall of Fame. And number one, who else but Michael Jack Schmidt?
Michael Jack.
Interesting story about that picture in the middle. Mike Schmidt, for 2 years, and people forget this too, for 2 years actually moved to first base because the Phillies, in their wisdom, right, were trying to find his replacement, and they wanted to do it in enough time that possibly his replacement could be just as good or better than Mike Schmidt and still have Mike Schmidt. So for 2 years, they brought up this guy named Rick Shue. Do you know who Rick Shue is? Exactly. So,
I was gonna say I remember the name.
yeah, you remember the name because he wasn't Mike Schmidt. So after the 2 year experiment, Mike Schmidt went
Oh
back to
no,
third
I'm
base.
sorry. It was Gene Shoe. That's the name I remember.
Ah,
Gene.
Gene Shue.
Yeah.
Um, so that experiment failed miserably, and then Mike Schmidt wound up moving back to third base. So he was going through a massive slump at the time. So Mike Schmidt decided, I'm gonna have some fun. I'm gonna come out in a wig. He actually came out pregame like this, and actually got the worst boo ever. I don't have. I'm still looking for the video of it, but you know, you know his history with the Philly fans. It was always kind of. It came down to sports writers. It was really sports writers that were really tough on Mike Schmidt, and it kind of carried over to the fans. Um,
Newsflash:
Hello.
they still haven't found Mike Schmidt's replacement.
Hello. Well, technically we did, but we
But he
traded.
wanted he wanted out.
He wanted out. Can you imagine? He was too man. He could have been on that '08 team, and I think we could have won in '09 too if we had him there. 3-time MVP, 12-time All Star, won the first Phillies World Series in '80, 10-time Gold Glover, and he's already in the Hall of Fame. You know, and the stats say it all. So we have a very similar list, even the same as far as who is the greatest. So
Well, that right there was our Phillies. Bo, 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 also known as 4 for 4. We say Bo, Bo, Bo. Now it's time for me to be embarrassed.
dude, you're gonna get this in like 12 seconds. So wait, don't look at it yet.
Okay.
First thing that comes into your mind, say it. When we went this route, you're 5 for 5.
Okay.
Now you may proceed.
What's that third team?
Florida Marlins.
No, 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 no. There's the 29, the 10, the 10, and the 20. The 20 is Florida Marlins.
All with the Phillies.
All with the Phillies. Okay.
Phillies Marlins.
3-time All Star, 90. Darren Dalton.
Told
Yes.
you. See?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
6 for 6.
Now that was my favorite Philly before Jimmy Rollins. It was Mike Schmidt, then it was Darren Dalton, then it was Jimmy Rollins. Jimmy Rollins became the favorite Philly. I told you the story on the show when I met Darren Dalton.
You did. You did.
Real nice guy, man. Real nice guy. I was in awe as a grown man. I was in awe of Darren Dalton. We were stuck in the lobby together. So, man, may he rest in peace. But man,
You know what's
real nice guy.
you met Darren Dalton. I actually met Kirk Chilling. He signed the autograph. I had a baseball card in '93, and I got him to sign it. It was with him actually playing for the Houston Astros. And I remember him sighing. He's like, "Who's that guy?" I'm like, "It's you, sir." You know. And he
Yeah.
signed it and was like, "Oh, okay."
Man, Darren Dalton, Dutch Dalton, that was
Dutch,
my guy. That was my guy right there.
yeah, true leader, man, and just an absolute legend. I think I want to get his. I want to get the jersey, the warm up jersey of the Phillies in the '90s, the burgundy one with the Phillies going across the chest.
That might be nice. That might be nice.
I want the Phillies to go back to the burgundy. I'm tired of the. I don't. I was tired of the current Phillies jerseys in like '95.
Um,
And I,
I felt I liked this current Phillies jerseys back when they first went. I say first went back to them because I felt like when they went to them, it was an homage to the jerseys pre 70s.
yes,
So I was cool with that, but I'm ready for something new. And I'm cool with the burgundy one.
Mhm.
I'm also cool with the powder blue. A lot of people don't like it. I like it.
I love the powder blues.
I like the powder blue. I think it's kind of funny to see them in that sometimes, but I like the powder blue.
I love the powder blue. I actually like the Saturday night specials too, but I don't like the full burgundy. I would go Saturday night special jersey up top, white bottoms, no pinstripes. I'd even go white hat up top with a red bill. Because the Phillies actually wore that way back in like when they first came out. They had a red bill with an all white cap.
I would go I would go with the burgundy with like some gray pants. I wouldn't go white pants.
You want to go white pants?
I would go gray. Probably because my college team wore burgundy jerseys and gray pants. Probably that's probably why. Um, but I wouldn't go. I would like to go full brown. I know you don't like that. We've had that discussion before. You don't like the one color. You feel like it's
I mean,
more
if it's,
like a softball team.
yeah, I mean,
Like I like the full color powder blue.
and
I'm
it, and
I'm
it's funny.
okay with the full color burgundy, but I'm not thrilled.
I
I'm
think
not.
it depends. It depends on the color. Like maybe all black. Okay, like my our baseball team is choosing uniforms, and they
Mhm,
the third jersey they want to go. It's an all black with white pinstripes, and I'm like, all right, black and white can work. But I
mhm.
think you and I we coached against a team, and they had all gray, and I think they had neon green pinstripes with like the blue. I was like, it was like it I thought like a Teletubby, a group of
They look
Teletubbies.
like the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, it was like Seattle Seahawks. I think it would
Mhm.
have been better if it was all white with the neon and the blue,
Well, we can go over our fashion tips all on another show.
but
But yeah, I am ready for a new Phillies design.
I think it's time.
I think the best uniform in the city. Sorry, I think the best uniform in the city right now is the Sixers City Edition, Spectrum Edition City Blue.
I like those. I like the dedication to the spectrum. Although
Yeah,
some people say it looks like the Denver Nuggets, and I'm like, but they're not. So shut your face.
right. It doesn't look like the Denver Nuggets
It
because
does.
the Denver Nuggets when they had the look, it was looked like mosaic. The
It
colors were
looks
like mosaic and all
it
that.
looks stupid. It didn't resemble a nugget. It was dumb. It was moronic.
It still doesn't represent any type of nugget. Anyway,
They're better. They should just get like the 6 piece John from McDonald's and just
something is figured out.
with some sweet and sour.
But we're going to wrap this thing up. We want to thank y'all for checking out the Check Swing podcast. Don't forget, actually, right now, with everybody that's still on, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take all three, um, what's it called? All three surveys that we've done already, not counting Phillies yet. Boom. And I'm posting them to the chat. So if you want to vote on any of the surveys, you can go ahead and click those links there. and get your vote on. Vote early, vote often, and make sure your voice is heard. As I start to lose my voice right now, excuse me. We will be sending out the Phillies survey, and we will be announcing our final fo greatest Philly athletes of all time next week on the Check 20 podcast. Also, next week will be our final show of the year. It's been a great first year, and it wasn't even a full year; it was like a half a year. But it's been a great first year of the Check 20 podcast. Miguel and I have been talking about doing this for like 3 years, so it finally did happen this year. Right, better late than never.
Better late than.
So for Miguel and myself, I want to thank y'all for listening, and we are going to talk to y'all next week when we reveal our fo. We love y'all for loving us. We'll talk to y'all next week.